Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the guardian of the blue paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, to get back to contention means a busy off-season for the Flyers. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Inc. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Hockey Writers Inc. Your host,
Lance Green.
And I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers. And ladies and gentlemen, we've got another really great, awesome episode in store for you. That's right. To get back to contention means a busy off season for the Flyers. Episode 33. How about that, man?
Getting there, yeah.
Oh, man, getting there. How you doing, Lance?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, I'm doing great. I've been watching a lot of great playoff hockey and daydreaming about what could be. Could that be a little hint?
It's a little segue there.
Yeah, you like that segue, right? Look, folks, the first article just dropped on flyersnittygritty.com on website just yesterday. You've been really busy, so that's why, I had to say the busy part, because it's going to be a busy off season. So this latest article here was just put on the website just yesterday. Flyers, what do these playoff teams have that we don't? And all I have to say is thank you for finally speaking some truth.
Yeah, I get that a lot from my readers here. They just find it refreshing. I don't like to hold my tongue. Anybody who watches this show or read any of my articles, it is what it is. I speak for the fans. I speak for hopefully the majority of the fans out there.
Yeah.
And if the team is doing great, then let's hear about it. But if the team needs some work, then let's throw it out there. Let's talk about it. So that's how I try to keep all my articles. So
exactly, and this is one of the main reasons why, Lance, I think that we have such a great rapport, man, because we're so very untactfully truthful about this team and what we feel and think. And we really don't hold back, and it's that kind of passion that is something that not only represents the fans, you know what I mean? But it represents just that it's a complete, like, I want to say, like, devotion to the team. You know what I mean? Like the fans have a devotion to the team, but I don't know, man. I've been able to put a different hat on and look at the team with an analytical eye now. And I'm just really not liking what I see, and I'm not really seeing anything going in the right direction to rectify these things that I don't like what I see. You know what I mean? And this article reinforces just what we've been talking about all season, that you need a physical team in the playoffs. As you mentioned, this team does not have it.
No,
this current
definitely
roster does not have that physicality.
Yeah. So, obviously gone are the days of the Broad Street Bullies. We all know that. We've talked about that before on this show. But, the fact that this team is lacking physicality is one of the reasons why we're not in the playoffs. I think at the end of this season, we had a total of just 8 players on the final roster that had over 50 hits. All right? That's embarrassing. When ex-Flyer Radko Gudas led the league with 250 hits in the shortened season. All right? He has more hits than most guys on the Flyers put together.
Oh my gosh.
And that's just crazy. The total lack of physicality is scary. Some of the teams that are very physical and that have success with it are the Las Vegas Golden Knights. They have Will Carrier and Ryan Reeves there to bring the pain, to do the dirty work, if you will. And they're very successful with it. They produce a lot of hits. They right a lot of wrongs out on that ice. And another team that's in there with it is the Islanders at the point of this, with the big bruising guy and Matt Martin, Cal Clutterbuck, and Ross Johnson.
Yeah,
They have that great mix of size, toughness, grit, and then they have the talent up front to get that done.
yeah,
Those guys
yeah,
wear down those teams, have them fearful to go into the boards with them and try to retrieve a puck because they know they're going to come out seeing stars.
yeah,
Um, even the Stanley Cup champions, the Tampa Bay Lightning, have a scrappy Barclay Goodrow, a guy I really like the Flyers to add this offseason, who's a free agent. Patrick Maroon, who's won multiple Stanley Cups now with them and St. Louis for producing the same style of hockey for him. And Sergachev as well is a guy I like on
yeah,
Tampa Bay that can be a little physical and be a little pest in that mix. Um, you know, the Flyers have guys on this roster that can play physical, but they don't choose to use them. The 6'7" Sam Moran only played in 20 games this season. All right. He and said in his exit interviews that he loves the fact that he can be that person for this team. But the coaching staff, as it is, like I said, only played him in 20 games this year. They instead had to rely on guys like Oscar Lindblom, who is just coming back from cancer, and Nolan Patrick, who is just coming back from migraine issues,
yeah, yeah.
concussion issues, have to answer the bell at times this year. And that's just sad that nobody else on the current roster that was dressed that night thought that, hey, maybe I should step in there instead of these guys having to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I'm with you on that. And this article here was one of those articles that the comparisons you made with the Legion of Doom line and the LCB lines, and I also agree too that the Flyers don't. You talk about having physicality, which they lack, and then they also lack that killer line. Like you talk about the LCB line, you talk about the Legion of Doom line in your article, but then you look at like teams like Tampa Bay that have a Kucherov and a Stamkos for a set of lines, right? And with a Brandon Point thrown sprinkled in there, right? Where you have a team like Boston that's got, Pasternak and Marchand and they have that line. You know what I mean? You have that line in Pittsburgh with Crosby, Gensel, and Rusk, where every single one of those guys all had over 20 goals this year. You know what I
For
mean? You
sure.
you have that line in Colorado where you have Landeskog and McKinnon. I mean, oh my gosh, are you kidding?
Yeah,
Right?
the Flyers would kill for that. And the best years they ever had, the ones that they had the real chance at cups, and the ones they won Stanley Cups with the LBC line back in the day that were so good for so long for the Flyers. And then like you said, the Legion of Doom line when we ruled the Eastern Conference in the 90s with that
Oh,
line and had so many points piling up just off of that line alone, it made for some great hockey. That line was unstoppable when they
both of
were
them.
on the ice.
Both of them.
Both of them were for sure. But right
It,
now, teams that have that, like you said, Colorado Avalanche with Gabriel Landeskog, Nathan McKinn, Mikko Ratinen, they totaled 800 or 183 points this season during the regular season.
boom.
And at the point I wrote this article, um, they had 37 points in just 9 games. Just that one line, guys. That line is unstoppable. Okay.
Oh,
And Boston
jeez.
too. Boston's in a bit of a tizzy right now, but that first line of Brad Marchand, Patrick Bergeron, and David Pastrnak, who haunted the Flyers this year for sure,
Oh yeah.
um, had 165 points this season and collectively had 35 points at the time I wrote this article in the
Jeez.
playoffs.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That line is great as well. As much as I don't want to give Marchand any props as the pest that he is. they are successful in that sense. Now,
Yes.
if you look at the Flyers' first line with Claude Giroux, Sean Couturier, and Travis Konechny, it was moved around a little bit this year, but none of those guys reached the 20 goal mark this year. None of those guys reached the 50 goal or 50 point mark rather this season. That is a problem. They were not a scary force to be reckoned with. They were not dominant during 5-on-5 play. They got most of their points on the power play. And if they're going to have a team like this where they don't have that dominant first line, then they need to produce a team like the Flyers of old in 13-14 season where they had what, 7 guys, I believe, had
Yeah.
20
20
goals
goals.
that year.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't want an amazing first line and you don't want to put the money, which they have so much money wrapped up into that first line, and they're not producing as much as they should,
Right.
then they should produce a team like that who can do it by committee.
Yeah.
But they don't have that either.
No. No. And see, I really like that comparison because I do remember those teams back where, there was 7, 8, 9 guys on the team that all had 20 goals. And when you look back at the Legion of Doom line, that wasn't a if they were going to score, it was when are they going to score, and the when was every time they were on the ice.
And which one was going to do it that shift?
Right. I mean, it was just scary. I mean, when they were on the power play, right? When that line came out on the power play, it was guaranteed to be a goal in some way, shape, or form. There was just going to be a goal scored that during that power play when those guys were out there. It was just one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
And it's not that we're not paying players to that kind of money to be that first line talent. If you look at Giroux, Voracek, you got Kevin Hayes making 7 million. You got JVR making upwards of $7 million. Those guys are paid like they should be a first line talent, but aren't really producing like it.
That's that is the sad fact about that. You know what I mean? Look, my favorite line uh, is something that I've said multiple times. Something that you said is it's one of my favorite things, and I'm so, I it's something that I feel so much at heart to because I see so little of it, and that is playing for the crest on the front and not the name on the back.
Hmm.
And it just sure seems like there's a lack of that somewhat. uh I mean, I'm not trying to say that guys are being selfish. I'm not trying to say that, okay? But it just seems like this is a group of guys that are talented enough to say, well, if the team's not going to do well, then I'm going to do well for me. Right? Where, no, see, you need to be able to have a more of a mentality of the team has to do well so I can do well. Right? That needs to be that's the culture there that I think needs to change. And I think that's what you're touching on in that little segment right there. As far as do I understand you correctly as far as that's concerned?
For sure, yeah. With that, there's a lot of guys. We've touched on this before in this show, and I've touched on it in my articles before. I think it needs a culture change in Philadelphia. Um, the rough and tumble, people feared coming into Philly years ago because they knew they were going to have a difficult game every single night. The team would not let up. They were, the ones that were pushing, and maybe they weren't the most talented guys out on that ice surface,
Yeah.
but they were the ones with all the heart
Yeah.
and all the just pure exhausted talent put left out on the ice every night, because they were going to try their utmost to win each and every game, and I just don't see that. These guys are inconsistent with their play. They would rather see a team that um, you know let's win this one against the Penguins, one of the best teams in the East, but then lose one to the Buffalo Sabres or New Jersey Devils the next night. Like, where is that consistency? Where is that
And not just
care?
lose, yeah, not just lose, but lose like 7-1
Yeah.
or 8-1 and get completely housed. Like, what?
That's gonna happen. That's gonna happen at points in the season for sure, but it shouldn't happen with any sense of regularity.
I mean, the New York Rangers lines had a lot of points against the Flyers. Buffalo lines had a lot of points against the Flyers. It was completely their lack of defense that was there. And then it's like you mentioned, not having any players even reach the 20 goal plateau, or one player reach the 20 goal plateau, and finally at the last game of the season has to score 2 goals to get to the 20 goal plateau, to, you know what I mean, with Joel
Right,
Farabee, right?
right.
So okay.
And he makes a fraction of what those
Yeah,
previous
he's like
players.
$750,000 or something a year or something. So yeah.
So with you saying that, in the article I quoted the great Alabama football coach Paul Bear Bryant in saying that offense sells tickets, but defense wins championships. Now, for a long time, it's been the Flyers' MO to have one guy, one really talented defenseman. In the past, it's been Mark Howe, Eric Desjardins, Kimmo Timonen. Now it's Ivan Provorov. And they want to use and abuse that player to the point that they're so exhausted that they're not even, playing on that same wavelength that they can anymore. Because they give them a supporting cast that is lackluster at best. They can't do it all by themselves. They can't be out on the ice every second of the game. Now, Ivan
Yeah.
Provorov, just like the ones I named before him, plays 25 plus minutes a night, but should he really be playing that much? I
I
don't know.
yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Look, we all know that, and see, that's even been the case too, because like you did, quote the great coach from Alabama. Offense puts butts in the seats, and the Flyers just haven't had the offense, to be honest with you, to match anything that their defense gives up. They can't have, there's no pushback to a team that comes in and puts up a couple of goals on them real quick. They have no pushback against that. And that to me I think is another failing point. That to me is not just a lack of players and skill and talent, but a coaching. You know what I mean?
It for sure is. But I mean, if you look at, the teams in the playoffs, since this is what that article I wrote is
Mm-hmm.
about, um, you know, defense is the guys that are still in it right now, or, at least work.
Yeah.
With Carolina, Carolina has any one of those guys is as good as their first pairing guys at any given game. There are solid 1 through 6 with a trade that they brought in Yanni Hakanpää at the deadline.
Yeah.
That really settled that defense up. Um, you look at Colorado's young core of Cal Maker, Devin Tews, Bowen Bryan, and arguably my favorite defenseman in the league that's not wearing an orange and black jersey is Ryan Graves. I think he is very underrated, and he is for in his rookie season. I think he led the NHL in plus minus. Okay, he's
Yeah.
very
We've talked about
overshadowed.
him before.
He's very overshadowed by Cal Maker.
Yeah.
Um, any one of these guys is amazing talents, and they are one of the reasons why their teams are where they are right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Philadelphia simply doesn't have guys like that. They don't have guys that um, take the first part of their job, the mainstay of their job is defense first. They think of it as offense. Let me jump up into the play all the time. Well, that's all well and good, but let's see you prevent a goal before you try to go score a goal.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let me see you stand somebody up at the blue line first. Let me see you, hip check somebody, or actually, uh, do a complete honest check on somebody instead of trying to poke check somebody or something crazy
Yeah,
like that.
create a turnover, get the play going back the other way.
Gosh, it's like, okay, you're a defenseman, do your job. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be so blatantly honest like that. Look, this team seems like a shell of its former self, of its former identity. And it does not appear that there are even any moves on the horizon that could make you feel confident in the fact that they're trying to address some of these glaring issues that we have brought up so many times. And maybe it's just me, okay, but it doesn't seem like there's any sense of urgency within the team, on the ice, and it doesn't feel like it with the management off the ice.
Time will tell. I don't have much faith, but Fletcher says that he is down to make some big moves, but like we said before, proof is in the pudding. Let's see you do something. You said you wanted to do a whole lot last off season and weren't able to get it done. It's all well and good if you have those intentions going into the
Yeah,
off season, but you have to be able to mastermind your plan and see it through.
and I don't really. I mean, something that we're going to get into here, after the break, is some updates that have happened to the team, since last we've had our show. But like I said, I don't have that confidence in what this team is going to potentially do. And I liked it in this article, that you did do the comparisons with those consistent lines. And this is something that I've been yammering for the last three coaches now. Because Hackstall did not believe in putting the same guys out there at all, one night to the other. He had different lines out there almost every single blessed night.
Yeah,
And
no chemistry. Yeah.
how can you have chemistry with a team if you don't have guys that play together? I mean, you have to stick with those guys no matter what happens. It doesn't matter if they get scored on a couple of times. It doesn't matter if something bad happens. I mean, if that's going to be your best line, you got to stick with that best line. I mean, am I wrong? Is that horrible of me to think that?
But you got to have those players to create a best line, and I don't see the pieces. To create a best line, you need a good center. Well, you have that in Sean Couturier. He can take some good faceoffs. He's good defensively, but you need a sniper. You need a guy like John LeClaire was for that line. That can put the puck in the back of the net when it hits his stick blade. You have to have a guy that can set somebody up. Now, Giroux is pretty good at that, but you don't really give him a sniper in which to lay
Yeah,
a pass on his blade,
yeah,
and put it in the back of the net. So you don't have a complete first line that you need,
yeah.
and other teams are fulfilling that and producing some pretty good lines right now, and the Flyers are still shuffling papers and
Yeah,
shuffling lines
yeah,
and not able to find that great mix. And if you don't have that great mix, then you need to hit the free agent market
or
and
something.
or something and pull in a player or two, like we might talk about, that can better enhance that lineup for you and bring in those pieces that you're missing.
Because that seems to be the thing. Like, they had connecting up there with Giroux and Couturier. Then they had Voracek up there for a little while. Then they had JVR up there. Then they moved Couturier down to the second line with Voracek, and they moved some other people around and put Hayes and stuff and blah blah. Like they never really, it never really seemed like AV settled on a set of line. Yeah, he rolled four lines every night, but it was like they were not always the same four lines every night. You know,
Never. Yeah.
and it's just that to me is where I that to me is where I have a hard time with if you want to have a consistent team, then you have to have a consistent lineup.
Yeah, I think he had consistent pairs, like you said, with Couturier and Giroux playing together. Hayes had his people that he generally played with,
But not everybody always at
but
the same time.
but not everybody always at the same time. It was a little shuffled for me. Obviously, I was okay with that more in the first season, where AV coming in, he wants to work some different
Right,
lines. He wants to see what's going to work.
right.
That's fine.
And learning the
But
players and all that. And yeah,
right, yeah. But I wanted to see some more consistency this year, and it wasn't there for the lines anyway. So
yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, we're going to take a little quick break here with our sponsor. We would like to thank our sponsor. That would be Canine Country Club Resorts. You can check them out online at www.cccresorts.com. You can also check them out on Facebook as well, too. Also, be on the alert that the outdoor pool is open, so you can give them a call and schedule your time and get your doggy down there and get them wet and get them dunked. So check them out. They take care of all your spa needs and all your daycare needs and everything you need at the Canine Country Club Resorts. So check them out. Both locations are now open. So check them out. And now is a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back after this. Greetings. This is SteelFlyers from the SteelFlyers All Sports Network, and we have two very special guests. We are delighted to be joined by Tracy Musser and Nicole Howard from the Canine Country Club Resorts. Tracy and Nicole are both managers for CCC Resorts and work at the Windsor or at the club, one of two locations both in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your 30th year anniversary of being in business. Let me start off by saying this. Steel Flyer stands behind this company 100%. They've taken care of Steel Flyer's furry friend for the last 2 years now, and they are a one-stop shop for everything your furry friend needs. In fact, let's find out what our friends at CCC Resorts offer. Nicole, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. What are some of the great boarding services that you guys offer, and what do we have to do in order to get our furry friends taken care of when we are unable to travel with them?
Well, we like to bring everybody in for a tour first. That way they can see the behind the scenes, they can see where they stay, they can see where they play, and then we explain all of the fun things that we can add on to their reservation, whether it be one of our packages, either a nature walk, a ball time, or even a cuddle time.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. Boy, it sure sounds like a resort to me. So how are you today, Tracy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Tracy, tell me, is it true that you guys have both an indoor and an outdoor pool at the Windsor location?
It is true. We've got one of each, so we're able to offer year-round swimming. The indoor pool is a great option for dogs who are swimming for therapy or rehab. It's got that sloped entry so they can wade into the water. Our outdoor pool is a little bit larger, and it's 4 foot deep the whole way across. Both of them are saltwater pools, so it's really easy on the dog's skin and coat.
Wow, that's very awesome. So then during the summer months, you have a much deeper pool outside and then a sloped entry shallow pool indoors for the dogs. Tracy, tell the folks how we can get some pool time.
Well, the first thing everyone does is come for an intro swim. We use that time to make sure the dog is comfortable in the water. We make sure they know how to get out of the pool safely, and we go over all the pool rules and etiquette with the clients as well. After that, they're able to schedule private appointments where they have the pool to themselves, or they can invite friends and have a whole group swim going on.
So after a dip in the pool, then it would have to be off to the groomers, right? I mean, our furry friends cannot go out looking their best. Nicole, what are some of the great services your top-notch groomers provide?
Our groomers, they specialize in full service grooms. We can do the basics, whether it be just a bath and a brush out or a blowout. Or for the extra pampered pooches, we can do nail dremels, we can do deodorizing soaks, and also facials.
Wow, man, that sounds like a resort if you ask me. Tracy, I know one of the main programs here at CCC Resorts is the WAGS program. The Steel Flyers dog is enrolled in this program. So why don't you tell the folks what is involved in this and how they can get enrolled?
Yeah, the WAGS program is our primary daycare option at the Windsor. It's designed to be a structured program for people who are looking for a set routine for their dog. They all come on the same days each week, which allows them to have set friends, and we know exactly what's going on with each group. So we do a little bit more activities, and we build more into their daily routine there. But we've got other daycare options as well for people looking for a little less commitment. We do an hourly care where you can drop them off and just pay by the hour. We also do a day stay option, which is great for the dogs that prefer human friends instead of making friends with other dogs. And then we have a traditional daycare option as well if you're looking for the occasional outing for your dog.
Wow, there you have it. A full-service groomer, a daycare program, and an indoor and outdoor pool. What more could you ask for? Sure seems like CCC Resorts has everything covered. Remember, DOG, depend on God. All right, thank you very much. That was a word from our sponsor, www.cccresorts.com. You can check them out online. You can also check them out on Facebook. Both locations are open, so check them out for sure. They have an indoor and an outdoor pool, so check them out. They will be able to take care of all of your spa and daycare needs. Check them out, www.cccresorts.com. All right, Lance. I gotta tell you something here. The second article just posted this morning. You've been quite a busy person, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been working on both these articles for some time now earlier in the week, and really just wanted to wait and polish them off and make sure that they're ready to go out. And
Yeah,
so,
we're glad you waited to polish them off, man. This one was just posted on flyersnittygritty.com, the website. A possible UFA replacement for the Flyers if they move on from Nolan Patrick. And although these are all only rumors at this point, but it sure seems like all signs are pointing towards an exit.
yes, correct. It's been something that has been growing. The rumors around this originally from Aunt Sanfilippo. Um, it came out that he has hired a different agent
Yeah, I read that too.
with the intentions that he was going to ask for a trade.
Yeah.
He evidently doesn't like the criticism that he's been getting from the media. I don't know who that could be. Um, and right, right, and doesn't like the necessarily spotlight that's consistently been on him, and the focus of the want and the need for him to step up and perform. And it's rumored that he really doesn't like AV that much. Again, all of these are rumors, like we're saying, but I've alluded to this in past when you speak to him, in the media and everything. He just seems disinterested in everything else, like he doesn't even want to be there. So these rumors seem, like they could be pretty true to me.
Okay, I mean, it's one of those things where until we actually see it happen, I mean, in this article, you mentioned that um, things could be looking like a moving on from Nolan Patrick. And if that is the case, okay, we're not saying that this is exactly what's going on. We're not saying that we have any insight or anything like that. It's all just, at this point, it's just a rumor. It's all just hearsay. I mean,
Right.
but it does kind of look like the signs are pointing towards that, which, all right, I'll bite. So if that's the case, there's going to be a serious need for another formidable center here, correct?
I believe so. We have a lot of depth at center, but if the team wants to, progress and get back to the playoffs, I don't think that Connor Bunnaman and Tanner Lazinski and Jackson Cates are going to be the guy to help us out next season. I want to see a short-term contract come in that can help now, and while those guys continue to progress. When you look at it, though, a lot of people are calling for the need for a third line center, and I don't see that. You have Sean Couture, you have Kevin Hayes, you have Claude Giroux, who can play center,
Yeah.
and you have Scott Laughton, who was pretty darn exciting to watch this season. He was one of the bright spots for me,
Yeah, I agree.
along with
Oh yeah, I
Joel
agree.
Farabee. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think those guys really played well, and I think Scott Laughton needs to be able to do that. And saying that, we have that depth already on the team. I think that the team's finances need to be placed in different areas, more focusing on the horrendous defense, adding to that, and finding a better suited 1A 1B type backup goaltender like we've talked about in past shows.
Yeah.
So with saying that, if they do decide to move on from Patrick, I think he could be easily replaced. He was at the end of the season basically a fourth line player. Um, and he was even getting moved out of the center role to bring in these younger guys, like I mentioned, Tanner Lazinski and Jackson Cates, towards
Yeah.
the end of the season to see
Yeah.
what they had. So
Yeah.
they really don't seem to have any faith in Nolan Patrick anymore, and just bumping him out of this role. Now, one player that I think Chuck Fletcher could be looking at and might be interested in is 29-year-old Michael Granlund, who
Hmm.
he drafted in the first round in 2010 when he was GM of the Minnesota Wild. A lot of people are saying this. His name keeps getting brought up, and he's a great player for sure. But he got paid $3.75 million last season. I don't see this guy as one that could come in and you're going to pay that money to him to play a fourth line center role. I don't see that.
Not at that kind of money.
Not at that kind of money. It could be better used or better spent on the previous mentioned positions, like we said.
Yeah.
So, who then would be out there? Um, well, in my mind, I think the team should look at another player, a 30-year-old that Chuck drafted back in the 2009 draft for the Minnesota Wild,
Okay.
a Mr. Eric Holla.
Yes.
He has been passed around the league a little bit, playing for any number of teams: the Minnesota Wild, the Golden Knights, the Hurricanes, now with the Predators. He's, I think, had a short stay in Florida as well.
Yeah.
But he is this instantaneous spark plug that the Flyers are looking for. I drew comparisons like you can see if you look at the article to a young Scotty Upshaw. Um,
Yeah.
very,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
very, very into the play at every shift.
Fast.
Gives you his all. Very quick on his feet.
Yeah.
Has a lightning quick release, a good
Yeah.
wrist shot. A guy that'll go in the boards and fight for the puck. Um, will battle to get in front of the net and take the abuse once he gets there to position himself better. Um, Although he's had quite a down season this year, we'll get to that in a minute. But Holla has career stats of 29 goals, 26 assists, and 55 points back in 2017, 2018 for the Vegas Golden Knights. That was when he played with some pretty respectable players. Okay. He has had a couple knee injuries, but it really hasn't slowed him down at all.
Okay.
And last season, the Predators really didn't do him any favors. Um, for example, in his last game before they got knocked out, he was playing with a 36-year-old Brad Richardson and a failed Flyers prospect in Nick Cousins.
Oh
Okay.
boy.
So really, Brad Richardson only had one goal this season. So he was not really playing with the type of talent that he
Yeah.
had when he played for the Hurricanes and played for the Golden Knights when he had so much success. Nashville wisely signed him last season for just $1.75 million. Now, we could easily fit that in under our cap space and bring in him to solidify not only a fourth line center role, but he is dynamite on the power play when he has a little bit more open ice.
Yeah.
And he's been that on all his past teams.
Okay.
That quintessential power play, which we need help in as
As
well.
well. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just makes sense to me at this point to bring him in, and for Chuck, if he does move on from Nolan Patrick, which I think he should at this point, he doesn't really want to be there, so why keep him there? They should bring in this guy, and see if Chuck still has his number in his phone or something like that, and call him up and see if he'll come to Philly next season to help us solidify the bottom six forward role.
Here's the thing. I really like putting Lawton with Hayes and Konechny. I thought that was a really that to me is a dynamic line, because when you put Lawton with talent, it's to me that to me right there, that would be the second line to me.
Yeah.
Right. I would put Coots on the first line. Okay. I don't know if I would have him there with G or not. I don't know, but I would at least have Couturier as a top line center, and then my second line would be with Hayes and with Lawton and Konechny.
Right. I hear you, and it is a very exciting line, but at the same point, who then would really slot in as the third center? You have
That's
two
why. Yeah.
you
That's
had
why.
two centers playing wing at that point, with Lawton and then Claude Giroux, and both those guys are
No. 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 No.
some of the best centermen in the game.
Right. No. I think maybe that might be the spot for Giroux. Maybe would be that third line center.
It's really hard to justify paying a guy $8.5 million to play
Look.
a third line
Okay. Look. I
center.
understand that. I understand that. But unless you're making him the top line center, you know what I mean? Isn't that his natural position?
It very much so is, but I think at this point in his career, he does take a lot of face-offs still, but he then moves to wing, so he doesn't necessarily have to skate up and down the ice as much. He's not 20 something anymore, but
Okay.
herein lies that problem. If you do move him to the third line center, then who do you put up on a first line
Right.
wing?
Yeah. No. Look. I'm not taking away from
there's
the fact
there's
that
a
we
lot
need
there's a
people.
lot of holes there's a lot of holes in
Yes.
the system there,
Yes.
and I think you were talking consistency. I think that Giroux and Couturier do play well together,
I agree.
but they need a better person on the other wing
Yeah.
that can kind of
More
slot
of
in
that
with them.
shooter.
Right, you need a shooter to go with them.
Yeah.
Now, if you take Scott Lawton off that third line center, as good as he plays on wing, he is very good defensively at center. And you saw what they did when they didn't have him at a third line center
Yeah.
and allowed Nolan Patrick to play that. He ended up with a minus 30
Yeah.
on the year. So I don't want to take away Scott Lawton's defensibility in
I
that in
agree.
that in that center spot. But what do you do? What do
Yeah.
you do? There's holes in this lineup that need to be
See,
filled.
that's just it. There's holes in the lineup, so you need to fill those holes, and you need to bolster the Flyers. And a player like Eric Holla could be potentially one of those players. Even Michael Granlund could potentially be one of. Look, we mentioned a plethora. We rattled off a number of different players that we felt could be additions to this team that could be in the money wheelhouse that the Flyers are going to be able to afford. Because it's like you mentioned at the very top, they're going to have to pay for uh, Carter Hart. They're going to have to give him some kind of a bridge deal. They're going to have to pay for a backup goaltender for something. I mean, I, and we're going to get into that here in a little minute. But which I have serious reservations about. But money needs to be spent for backup goaltending. Money needs to be spent for Carter Hart. Money needs to be spent for a center or something that's going to happen, especially if you get rid of Nolan Patrick. Money's need to be spent for a second pairing defenseman, preferably somebody that's a right hand shot. Somebody that can quarterback the power play, because you need a guy that can check off a lot of boxes.
You do. And that's why I said, I don't think a guy like Granlund or somebody at that caliber is going to be justified at this point
No,
when
I
you have all those
understand.
centers.
No,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get
yeah.
you.
Yeah, yeah. So it just makes sense. But you're right. I think we have mentioned countless names. There's countless number of guys that Fletcher this offseason could bring in. Now, I understand if you're going after one guy and you really want one guy, but you got to have a number of different guys. There's 30 some odd teams in the league now, especially with Seattle being yet just one more that could take your guy in free agency from you. So I don't want to hear Chuck this offseason say, "Hey, we tried, but we just couldn't get the guy we wanted." There is a plethora of different guys this offseason that could better this team game one next season.
See, you said it right there, and I have to tell you, Lance, that I have serious reservations about even the team considering re-signing Patrick. Okay, I really do, and it has only to do, and it doesn't have to do with anything other than his lack of production in the time that he's been with this team. It has nothing to do with the attention that he's been garnered or whatever the case is. And if he's deemed healthy, then great, cool. I'm glad to see that you were able to come through it and be healthy and be able to play. Okay, but the fact that you are a second overall draft pick from the first round, and you don't want to feel like you want to talk about things, and you don't want to have all this attention on you, and blah 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 blah, what? You are a second overall draft pick in the NHL draft. Okay, uh, in the fine print on his contract, it says gonna have to talk to the media about what's going on with why you aren't this, why this, why
Yeah.
this, why this, why this. So it has nothing to do with the media piling up on you. It's having to do with the fact that you haven't shown them anything to the contrary.
For sure. There's any number of guys you can look at for the past drafts. A number two overall pick is supposed to, you know, very soon after being drafted, supposed to be a face of your franchise. And he is one that they just want to kind of hide in the back of the bus at this point and,
Yeah, or something.
forget about. And
Yeah.
like I said
That's a
before,
horrible way to say that.
it's just the truth. And at this point, like we said before, both this coach and this GM did not draft him, so they don't have any ties or
Yeah.
holds to him. Like if Hextall was still here and trying to protect him, they don't
Yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, they don't have to, yeah.
And I think both their jobs are definitely being scrutinized right now, and they need to make some pretty big changes. So I wouldn't be um, so shocked if they do move on from him
Yeah.
this offseason,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
especially if he's going to come out and request a trade, so be it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. No, that's what I agree. I agree. Um, speaking of things that have changed and moved, just in the last few days here, we've had I guess they're dubbing this now, Welcome to Lappy Valley, with the coach Ian LaPerriere being named, the assistant coach in the Flyers now, Ian LaPerriere, being named as the head coach to the Phantoms. And first of all, the coverage of FlyersNittyGritty.com, Jamie Baskow and Sammy Weismer have been spectacular, and Lance and I are going to chime in on our thoughts here on this hire from Chuck Fletcher. with Ian LePerriere being named the head coach now to the Phantoms. And Lance, tell me, how do you feel with this hire of Coach Lappy for the Phantoms?
I'm not really impressed. I like Lappy. He was a hard-nosed player, and and
Yeah.
embodied what it was to be a flyer, or to be a, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
that
Beep
word flyer.
flyer.
Yeah, be flyer. So with that, but I don't know. It seems like Scott Gordon had the team in first place, with the Phantoms in first place, and he agrees to part ways, and maybe, like we said before, maybe he is going to try to pursue a job in the NHL level, but this offseason or whatever. But Lappy, he didn't do very good. If you look at the um, Flyers results in certain categories that he was in charge of, they were near the bottom, dead last. It seems like a glorified demotion in my mind. But
Okay.
I think that Lappy is better suited in this role. He was a player development coach for a long time. He
Yeah.
That's why he is in the spot he was in with the Flyers,
Yeah.
because he did so well at that. Now he is going to be forced to work with young players and develop them once again. And I think hopefully he will, flourish in this role, because he did so when he was just a player development coach. So, I hope Lappy all the best. But I do think at this point it was just a glorified demotion, that the team wanted to move on from him and get Chuck Fletcher, or AV's guy in there. He was the only guy pretty much left from you know
The
before
Hextall.
they came
Yeah.
to reign there. So I think it was nothing more than that at this point.
Okay. So can you give me any positives for him being the bench boss now for the Phantoms? I mean,
I like him in that role. I like him as a player development coach, and that pretty much is what an AHL coach is. He's going to teach these guys how to be pros. He had a quite long career in the NHL himself,
oh yeah.
and he played for a number of different teams, and he knows what it takes to be a professional, and he's going to show these guys hopefully what it is to be one, and how to grow their talents. And I think that's best what he's suited to be, at this point. Maybe he doesn't know how to really get across to these jaded millionaires in the NHL, at the same level that he was able to work with the young
Yeah.
players who just got
Yeah.
drafted. So,
Because
I wish him the best.
he was really never one of those players. Like he was never one of those guys that was making multiple millions of dollars a years, and
No.
he was one of those guys that was just kind of like on the fringe there a little bit at times. You know
Oh,
what I
sure.
mean? I'm not saying that he didn't have a good career.
Yeah. He
You
was
know
a
what I
great
mean?
penalty killer.
Yeah,
He was a guy that
he
blocked
was
a
a
lot
good
of
role player
shots. He dropped the gloves for his team, and I can definitely respect that. Anybody who knows me,
all day long.
all day long. So nothing to knock Lappy at all. But I think it was the right choice to move on from him at the NHL level. And I wish him all the best down in Lehigh for sure.
Okay, I mean, does this appear to be a move to keep the message within the organization? I mean, do you think that's kind of what's going on? I mean, you mentioned it's kind of a glorified demotion, but it will kind of it will kind of help with Chuck putting that final stamp, I guess, on this team with hiring another assistant coach, or letting AV hiring another assistant coach without having to have.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, but what are they going to spend to get another ex head coach to bring up there and try to help out this. I think at some point there's too many Chiefs on behind this bench and not enough Indians. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Can't
So
argue with you on that. I mean,
yeah.
both the assistant coaches have won Stanley Cups, as head coaches. So I can definitely see where we could say that. You know what I mean? So I, the fact that they do have each of these coaches have Stanley Cups, and yet the Flyers were dead last in some of these areas where these guys were responsible for coaching, and no heads rolled at all. I I that to me, and not only that, but the Flyers have one of the most expensive coaching staffs in all of the league. Okay, and with that being said, those guys are making that kind of money, and you're dead last in coaching for power play or penalty kill or whatever the case is. There's no consequence to that, really.
I guess Slappy took the fall for that. So
Um. Oh, okay. Okay. See, that's why I don't. That's with this next little thing here that we're going to talk about here to get us wrapped up is why I don't get the warm and fuzzies. I get the cold and scratchies with this team. I just do. What what happened over the 24 hours that made Felix Sandstrom re-sign with the Flyers?
huh. That is the $1 million question.
Or at least the
Um,
$750,000 question,
you're
anyway.
right. 792, I think,
All right,
to
sorry,
be exact. But
792. Sorry.
right, yeah. So yes, this is definitely a conundrum. With all the recent signing, and bringing over yet another goaltender that's not named Ivan. Um, it's definitely I'm at a loss for words. I can't say no. You know, yet another guy is signed, and we still don't know if uh, shoot, Lion is going to come back, and hopefully he doesn't. But Sandstrom saw the writing on the wall, and he was going to ship out. He was going to go to Finland and play, and okay, that works. But then at the last second, um, I guess before he boarded the plane, Chuck decides to re-sign him, and he's 24. He was a 2015 third-round pick, and he was supposed to be the guy to really battle Carter Hart for what it was when both
Yeah.
these guys were drafted, and he really hasn't been that impressive. At this point, last season, he played 11 games with the Phantoms. He had a 3+ goals against average and just over a 900 save percentage.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, that's
he won 5 games this season. Not really that impressive. And last season, he was majority of the time down in the ECHL.
wow.
And with a barely above 500 record down there
Yeah.
for the Reading Royals. So I don't know. I don't know at this point what the Flyers are trying to do. It doesn't make sense to me. I hope Urison comes over and really is a bright spot because they signed him too. So hopefully that means Lyon isn't going to stick around.
Well, I also I believe was it the great Jamie Pascal that wrote an article that said that maybe the reason why they re-signed him was so that he could be exposed.
Okay, take him.
No, but I mean that might have been the reason why that whole thing
Yeah.
changed or turned around. I can't remember if it was an article that I read from him or not. I can't remember, but
It very well could be, but
yeah,
you needed somebody to be exposed that was healthy for sure.
and signed and all
Kirill
that.
isn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
Kirill isn't.
yeah.
He's not healthy. He didn't play last season, so he wouldn't technically be able to be placed on that sheet for the Kraken to select. But and Felix wouldn't be on a rookie deal anymore. He's not. He's now signed his
Well,
second
it is a
contract. So
two-way contract, though.
for sure.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
it's not his original rookie contract,
yeah.
which then would make him unable to
Eligible,
be selected. Yeah.
right? But
So
it'll make him eligible to be on the list of.
it it now would be making him eligible. But you know, yeah. Do you want to sign a guy just because of that? I could think of a number of different guys that I would rather sign to be able to throw out there and say that, and still, if not selected, be able to play and do a lot better than he did this past season.
So both of these, like even Ivan, was not selected by Chuck Fletcher, right? And Felix Sandstrom was not selected by Chuck Fletcher either, right?
Right.
So there's no ties to these players at all.
No, the one goalie that he did select, and Roddy Ross,
Yeah,
he just lost.
yeah,
He didn't sign him. He chose
right.
not to resign, or he chose not to give him an entry level contract. So I don't know. I think at some point in this draft, I think he will select a goaltender, and possibly pretty high as well. He didn't seem that satisfied with the goaltending anywhere in the system this year. And
No, apparently not.
so, does he sign some free agents to cover that? Does he bring in a prospect as well? We'll have to see.
Well, we've given him a number of different clunks on the head. I mean, suggestions as to whom we thought he could bring into the team that would be a good backup for Carter Hart and at least be able to challenge Carter Hart, because I think that's what you need. That's what they need to do, is bring in a guy, and you also need a guy as well too that's going to be that guy that can come in and play 30 games and win 20 of them. You know what I mean? So that's the other thing too here. So, man, I'll tell you what. We covered a lot on this one. What do you think?
I think so. It's a for the off-season show for sure. There's a lot to think about right now, guys, and hopefully Fletcher is crossing his T's and dotting his I's on these breakdowns of everything as free agents go, as draft picks go, and really doing his homework, because I am, at least.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. We're definitely doing our homework. We definitely got our eyes on who we think would be a help to this team. So we're hoping that Chuck does too. We're looking for those kinds of things. We're looking for that sense of urgency off the ice as well, so that we can see that sense of urgency on the ice. So we would like to congratulate and say thank you to Jamie Baskow and the great Flyers Nitty Gritty for helping us to achieve the Bleacher Reports for the 31st week in a row. That's the huge salute. Thank you very much for your help in doing that and helping us get out there 31 weeks in a row, man. Every time we put